In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how I reproduce the vocals from Speed Drive by Charli XCX. I'm going to go through the entire process from start to finish of recording, arrangement, the vocal production, and the final processing. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, friends, let's jump in. So as always, let's listen through it and then we'll break everything down in detail. What a freaking banger. Okay, so to kick off, let's talk about recording. So we recorded on this mic, Shure SM7B, and then we're going through an Apollo Twin, and Lucy was sat here, and the mic was there. We've got a splitter, so we were just listening together as we were recording, and we just kind of go through the whole process. So we go section by section and kind of work on placement, delivery, that kind of thing. In terms of our recording chain, we're going through an Avalon, a couple dB of compression, and an 1176. So we've got a medium attack and a fast-ish release and 4:1 ratio. We knew for sure with this song particularly, it's quite aggressive, it's in your face. 1176 is great for that. So we're going through about 4 to -5 dB max of gain reduction, maybe a little bit more on the loudest peaks. So, you know, we might jump to -8 or -10. I'm totally cool with that. That's pretty much it with recording. It was as simple as that. Sat there, recorded on this, going through that vocal chain, that's it. The rest is all performance and some comping. So let's jump into the lead.
Bobby, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Jump into the driver's seat and put it in a speed drive.
Great performance as always. There is some room resonance, but I'm not too worried about that in this instance, especially because I know there's going to be a ton of processing that's going to make the vocal sound affected. We're going to lose all of that in there anyway. So let's walk through the lead processing. Super simple. So first off, we're doing some tuning and it's pretty aggressive. So I knew I wanted to use Metatune rather than Antares because I want it to sound affected, and there's also a really cool extra bit of sauce going on here. We've got the speed to 14 and then the sustain down. We've just picked the key, F major, and then what I'm doing is pulling the doubler to 13%, and let's hear it without and then with.
Bobby, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Jump into the driver's seat and put it in a speed drive.
So we can hear the tuning. It's not super in your face, but it's getting that hyper poppiness that Charli XCX is known for. And then this is the extra sauce. We pull up the doubler to 13%.
Bobby, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Jump into the driver's seat and put it in a speed drive.
Now we're starting to get in that realm, and that's just with one plugin. Easy peasy. Second, we're just putting a limiter on it.
Bobby, you're so fine, you blow my mind.
Just catching the peaks, doing a little bit of EQ, just some of the lows and a little bit of the mids. I know from working with Lucy for years that around 800, we just want to take that out to clean it up. And then another 1176. This is a lot more aggressive. So it's an 8:1 ratio, and we've got a slow attack and a fast release. So I wanted to accentuate the rhythmicness of her vocals. So the slow attack is letting the initial attack come through, and then the fast release is just kissing off of it.
Bobby, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Jump into the driver's seat and put it in a speed drive.
And that's only -3 dB, but it's just giving it a little bit more upfrontedness. And then we've just got some spatial processing. So we've got a slap delay with H delay, and you can copy these settings. I use a slap delay pretty much every time on everything. It just gives it a sense of more dimension. And then we have a short room reverb. So there's not a lot of spaciousness in this that is audible, apart from on the harmonies, which I'll touch on later down the line. So this is really short decay, got a little bit of pre-delay just to let the dry come through a little bit, and then I'm just filtering out the highs and lows a little bit just so that it's cleaner in the context of the mix. And that's it. So it sounds like this.
Bobby, you're so fine, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Jump into the driver's seat and put it in a speed drive.
And then we've just got doubles. We've recorded the same thing twice, panned it hard left and hard right. And all I'm doing here is a little bit of a different EQ move. So I'm getting rid of the low mids and lows, and I'm just limiting them a little bit more aggressively so that it's really smooth and you can kind of feel them very consistently throughout, supporting the lead vocal. And then the spatial processing is the same, the slap and the room. And it's just the same in terms of wetness. So that sounds like this.
Bobby, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Jump into the driver's seat and put it in a speed drive.
So I just want to touch very quickly on the editing of this. So I tuned these the same with Metatune, and it would have been the same parameters, 13% wet and the 14 retune speed. And I've done that and bounced them to audio, because what I did before bouncing them to audio was I also vocalized them. The complete opposite of the Billie Eilish video, where I was talking about how everything is quite loose and imperfect. This is the other end of the spectrum. It's super perfect. Everything is very tuned, time aligned. It's just as tight as it can possibly be. Now, annoyingly, Vocaline is not opening right now, so I will just talk you through the process of it. Basically, you put Vocaline on the channel. So let's say I wanted to put Vocaline on here. What I would do is then in the side chain, I'm gonna click the lead, and then you click play, it plays through it while listening to the lead. And then it aligns the timing and the pitch to the lead vocal. And that's what I've done with everything. With the doubles and of course with the harmonies, I've not aligned the pitch because it's a different pitch. And it's just on the tightest it can be. So it's like super, super tight in terms of the timing. It's almost the same delivery left and right. And that's what gives the perception of thickness and support without you actually hearing the doubles. So we're not going for like Billie Eilish or the Beatles or Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters, where you can very clearly hear that effect. We're going more for support and width and that kind of thickness that's going to support the vocals in the chorus. So let's move on to the harmonies. This is our harmony bus. We've literally got a very similar EQ move, but I'm not getting rid of these low mids here. I'm just getting rid of the mids at 800. I'm high passing a little bit more aggressively, and same thing applies. I've done the tuning and I've vocalized the harmonies to the lead, and we've just got them panned hard left and hard right. And let's just hear those together.
Bobby, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Jump into the driver's seat and put it in a speed drive.
And then the magic of how these are sitting in the mix is how I've processed them together. So I've just grouped them, and then I've done another EQ move where I'm quite aggressively getting rid of the mids/low mids and a little bit more of the lows. I'm limiting them. Again, we want it to be smooth and catch those peaks. I'm de-essing them a little bit more aggressively. And then I'm using track spacer. You guys will see me do this all the time. I'm side chaining it to the lead vocal, and then I am putting it to mid side, and I'm pulling it down so that it's just ducking the frequencies within the mids. So that's where the lead is living. And these are panned out anyway, so I want to accentuate the side information, and that's kind of what's happening. Because it's getting rid of the frequencies within the mid, it's accentuating them in the sides more and just giving more space for them to breathe and kind of envelop the lead vocal. And then I am doing reverb on the actual group itself, going for a room, but the color is different. We're going for a modern rather than 1970s, which is what the other vocals are going to. I've got less of a pre-delay, and I'm doing the same high cut and low cut, just getting rid of any mess there that we don't want. We don't want too much sizzle and too much low end going on, cluttering the mix. And then I've just got a short decay, and that sounds altogether like this. So you can hear that they're being pushed back, and there's a lot more sense of depth, which is exactly what we want. All right, so let's move on to some of the swells and the stacks. So first off, just a little bit of ear candy. We've got a reverb swell that is accentuating some of these words. Speed drive. red light. We've got some tuning on there, a limiter, an EQ that is getting rid of a lot of stuff because again, it's supportive. I don't want it to fight with the lead vocal, the 1176. And then I'm just putting a reverb on there, 100% wet, no pre-delay, doing the old EQ move. And the decay is quite long and it's on a plate because I want it to be more bloomy. This is like a very intentional thing that we want to be heard. And then I'm just getting rid of some 2K because there's a bit of build up with the reverb. And with the lead vocal, it sounds like this.
Put it in a speed drive, riding through the streets on a different frequency. No, you know just what I mean, we're running through the red light. Huh, Bobby, you're so fine.
All right, let's move on to my favorite part, which is the gang vocals. So on the word hot, there's this massive gang vocal. So how did we do that? We just recorded a ton of takes. So we've got hot in the center, and then we've done left and right doubles. So that's creating width. Then what I did was I moved the mic a few more inches away from Lucy, so we're getting more room. And then I've panned those out left and right, and that sounds like this.
Hot.
So there's a bit more ambience. And then we've got more ambience even more. So I've pushed this even further away from Lucy. And then we're doing a slightly different pitch. And then we're panning that left and right. So the two of these together sound like that. And then finally, we've got an even higher pitch at the same distance. So the mic is further away. We've got that. And then all together, that sounds like this. Sick. And then all I'm doing is a little bit of reverb. So the same room reverb that we're sending everything else to, we're using that, but we're just driving more of the signal into it. So it's going to be wetter. And that just sounds like this. All right, so let's just move on to the outro vocals. So we've got this.
Lights.
All we've got going on here is the same tuning, 1176, the same spatial effects. And what I'm doing is just gently panning this a little bit to the right. And then we've got the red lights. So we've got the tuning, 1176. I did some match EQ, which shows that it was pretty much on point with the original lead vocal. And then when I was listening to the reference, it has a different tonal quality. So we're getting rid of a lot of the lows, some of the mids / low mids, and then there's a lot of 3K here. So we've got a kind of different tone to the lead vocal. We want to have a different relationship between the lights, the lead vocal, and the red lights. So that sounds like this.
Red lights, red lights, red lights, red lights, yeah.
All right, so finally, let's talk about the all Vox processing. So we've got Saturn, which is adding a little bit of warm tape saturation. We've got the Abbey Road vinyl emulation, and this is doing a similar thing. So I'm driving it into the vinyl emulation, and I'm putting the drive up as well. And then I played around with the different cartridges and the tone arm. This just affects the tone of it, like the brightness versus mid-range, until I found something that felt aligned with the reference. And I'm just doing an EQ, getting rid of a little bit of the low mids and mids. There was a little bit of build up there. Then I'm using Slate Virtual Mix Rack. Again, I'm adding more color. So basically the whole goal of all of these so far is just to shape the tone and add more coloration to it. By doing all of these in series, I'm adding more saturation and making it sound thicker and fuller. Then I'm doing some EQ, adding some brightness, adding some mid-range, and that's about it there. And then I am using the distressor emulation. I've got it 6:1. I was playing around with it. Originally, I had it in parallel. I was playing with the distortion settings as well, but this is what felt most right. Then I'm doing some de-essing, and then I'm using Revival to add some thickness and shimmer to it. Then I'm just doing some multi-band compression, just taming some build-ups here in the mids and lower mids. Then I'm using Micro Shift, and you use this with caution, but this really adds thickness. I played around with the style and the tightness, and then I'm just doing just a touch of it. Then I'm using Soothe just to tame any resonances. And finally, I was just using the multimeter, the correlation meter, just to check that what I'd done with Micro Shift and all the little doubling that I've done throughout has kept everything in phase, which was all totally fine. And finally, I'm just doing some parallel processing. So I'm sending this all the way to this aux, and then I've got a really aggressive 1176 doing a fast attack and fast release on 20:1 ratio, and I'm really driving that in. And then I'm just doing some saturation, heavy saturation as well. And then I'm just blending that into taste. It's just gonna make it more upfront and in your face. Okay, so let's quickly listen to it in solo without the all Vox processing.
Riding through the streets on a different frequency. No, you know just what I mean. We're running through the red light.
Okay, and with.
Riding through the streets on a different frequency. No, you know just what I mean. We're running through the red light. Right.
So much color, so much aggression. It's brighter, it's more in your face. Exactly what we are going for. All right, so just a couple final thoughts. Nothing is taken for granted here. Nothing has been unintentionally done or lazily placed. It's all highly intentional. That's the way that the top artists in the world are doing this stuff. So that's it. I hope this was helpful. Catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And if you want to see how I produced the music for Speed Drive, click the video right here. And until next time, create courageously.